I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, I was just going to ask, how do you know it wasn't written down in some other form besides like scrolls
I don't know. Can you show
before
me?
then? No, I'm asking you. The burden of proof is
I
on
don't know.
you.
I'd love to
Yeah,
see it. Can you show it?
well, no, in that contention, there is an interesting point to be made there because we are 2,000 years later from the proclaimed historical standpoint. So if we're 2,000 years later and we still bear record of this historical standpoint, that does give credence that it was more than likely a true historicity.
Yeah, so the burden of proof is on you to prove that this is a false historical event,
Burden
and
of proof is on
because
you to show that this is real. It's your.
it is
See, this
20,
is
20
the
years later, that's
cultural fucking claim, right?
dude, if
Your
something is
claim
written
is that
20 years
he lived
later,
and he did what he did. Now you gotta prove that shit. Just like the goddamn globe, by the way.
yeah, yeah.
All
So
this shit is
Talk hard,
brought to you
please.
by the same people. Religion and the globe.
yeah, so every
careful what you
single
believe, bro.
event, dude, can I
You
get
gotta
in?
let people speak, Harp.
Hey, bro.
Yeah, so every single event in history, like ever, has been recorded on, like written down, and you believe every single one of those events. But for some reason, when it comes to the resurrection of Jesus Christ, when it was written just 20 years later, they normally would have kept track of things orally in those days. It was written 20 years later, maybe before then. You can't even date it
Tell me,
to the exact year. It could have been.
Tell me
It
their
could have
writings.
well have been written the next day, and you're
Show me
just
the
like,
writings.
nope, that's not true.
That's a very good point, actually.
Show me the writings, please.
Well, you use the Bible.
Yeah, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Okay, so
The
they all
Bible.
contradict. Hold on. They all contradict themselves. So which one is true?
Yeah, so can you give me a real contradiction besides like, oh, Mary went to this
All
tomb,
of them
and then this
contradict
other
on
thing
the
says, wait,
resurrection.
can I finish? Can I finish?
Yeah,
So
go
can
ahead.
you give me
All
other
of them contradict themselves on the resurrection.
and you
Go ahead.
give me any real contradictions besides something like,
And all of
oh,
them contradict each other.
dude, can we get this guy on mute or something?
Yeah, he needs to be muted while you're responding because he apparently can't stop himself.
I'm trying to be fair and not like mute. Like
No. He can mute himself. I'm just telling him that.
Yeah, so basically, there's no. Can you give me? My question is, can you give me a real contradiction besides something like, oh, this gospel says Mary went to the tomb, and this gospel says that Mary and these women went to the tomb, and then this got like, can you give me a real because it's normal that in any accounts you're going to have a few minor contradictions. That's normal, and that's actually good. It shows that the story is not just copied from another. But the general account of Jesus' resurrection discovered by women is there. So can you give me a real contradiction, like a real
So read them again. Read them out loud to us, please. Oh,
yeah, I have read them. I have read them.
Here we go.
Well, Harp, do you have a...
Hold on, Riggs. Seriously. You're going to give us the contradictions by reading the accounts.
Answer the question.
That's not realistic, though, right?
Hold on.
So you're trying to make me find evidence against myself, and I don't believe it's there.
I'm answering your question. Now, start at Matthew, retard, and give us the account, and then go to Mark and Luke and John.
Yeah, I literally looked at them recently.
Contradictions are not contradictions.
I literally looked at them recently, and I just asked you the question: can you give me real contradictions?
I'm saying to you have the claim. So, start at Matthew, and at Mark, then at John, and tell us how it works.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Don't give me a story. Show us. I didn't even give you.
I didn't even give you a story. Okay, I said, can you give me?
Right now,
can you give me a real contradiction besides something that is
contradictive?
Besides something that is
contradictive.
Okay, dude,
read them aloud.
Okay, look, listen. I'm going to say this one last thing.
All right.
I'm going to get out of here. This conversation is fruitless because of the way you're being, but I'm going to say this one last thing. So, again, you need to give me a real contradiction besides something like, oh, this gospel says Mary was at the tomb, and this gospel says Mary and these other women were at the tomb, and then this happened. Like, normally, an account given by several different people, it's going to have a few different contradictions. If I say, oh, look over there, what do you see? So one person is going to say, I see this and this. And then another person is going to say, I see this, which matches the one person's view, but they're also going to include or disclude something. Accounts given by several different people are going to be slightly different. There are going to be small contradictions, but can you give me a major contradiction that literally completely downplays the general overall account? And the answer is no, that's not what I see. I literally looked over the different gospels recently to try to see what contradictions there are, and I did not find any major contradictions. So, yeah, and I think this is fruitless because you do not even want to listen, want to learn. You just want to yell and try to make everybody submit to your position. And that's wrong, and you need to repent and believe the gospel. All right, peace out.
Very good. So, could you prove anything that you just said? Go over the four gospels that you're talking about that just people are just, oh, I don't know what happened. A few days later, 20 years later, 60 years later, 80 years later, writing things down that they don't have any account of. These aren't even the people that were there. You can't even prove that these were the people that were there.
Yeah, clearly.
Stop talking.
Wow.
Let alone.
Clearly, you didn't listen to anything I said.
Here he goes. Here he goes. Right? He's going to talk over me. I didn't talk over him. I wasn't
Harp, you
allowed.
have to present. You said that there's a bunch of contradictions, but
yeah, there's all through the fucking gospels.
Yeah, but
he wants to read them and explain them like he just said. They're easily explained. Please do that.